Somewhere over the rainbow, Gotchard got his final form, and it's incredibly blue. I got nothing more to say. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Rider Time podcast here on the Morphin Network, and we are here to discuss Kamen Rider Gotchard episode 38, which I will post up the thumbnail right here because we forgot to do that real quick, but here we are. Here we go. All right, so so the episode is in fact called Over the Rainbow because Nijigon got its name from Niji, which means rainbow, gon for dragon. So it's Over the Nijigon. And yeah, it's not a terrible episode, just not as good as the previous two. I get what it's going for, but it would still feel better if, as I've said before, it would be part of a four-parter instead of the finale of a three-parter, because I feel like the pacing just does not work as well. But you know, hey, I will say this. I did like the Amalgam in this episode. Yes, it's the fantastic Amalgam, which has its arms crossed over like so. And it is black Amalgam, just like the last few have been. And just like how a previous Amalgam that used 5 Amalgams together from the Kamen Rider Legend episode, this uses 5 Amalgams from the same category, which are Poseidon, Odin, Griffin, Centaur, and Fenrir. So we got 2 Greek Amalgams, 2 Norse Amalgams, and 1 that could be kind of both. But yeah, the design isn't too terrible, but I feel like I only like 3 out of the 5 parts of it. I appreciate Odin and Poseidon becoming the 2 arms, and they are really well designed gauntlets, more or less, where it's like you got a spear because Odin had a spear, and a trident because Poseidon had a trident. But the centaur on the right shoulder, it looks cool. Not gonna lie, it looks really cool. But it's the other 2 chemis that I feel like are not good in the design, because you barely see the Griffin component. You have to look really carefully just to see, the shoulder is a wing, but you barely see it, or rather, there's such a huge mess going on over here that you barely even notice the Griffin part. And the Fenrir component, it looks like a T-Rex head facing sideways, which, if it was a T-Rex chemi, I wouldn't mind the design too much. I do like the idea of it being sideways and with the tongue sticking out. It's just that Fenrir was supposed to be sort of like a Norse wolf thing, and I feel like it doesn't really stand out as well. It does not look like a wolf as much as it looks like a reptile. Yeah, you do see the furry paws on the left shoulder, or like hovering over the wing, which makes the wing harder to see. But this is why, if anything, I feel like they should have done the design just a little bit differently. They should have switched the Griffin and the Fenrir. Make the Fenrir form the right shoulder, the left shoulder. Like, make it really noticeable that it's a wolf's head really sticking out. Make the bird-like head of the Griffin the actual headpiece, or even the chest for that matter. Like, you could have the 2 amalgam arms be like underneath like this, and have the Griffin head protruding that way. And that way you have the symmetry to give him like proper wings in the back. But the way it's like, yeah, you see the other wing like in the front along with one of the 2 legs of the centaur, but it's barely noticeable because it's just so monochromatic with the black undersuit that you barely even notice it if you don't really examine the suit thoroughly. But the reason why Gigas summons it is because Hotaro's been turned into a giant egg, and I props to the editing department making just doing away with the theme song because it's the dramatic episode. And for the sponsor spot, it's like it's just the egg inside an alleyway, and it's like raining, no music, just rain. Perfect aesthetic. This is perfect aesthetic. I actually like that part. It's problem is it goes downhill a little bit from there, not too much downhill, just a little bit downhill. And so Valvared does try to protect the egg from Gigas, and of course Gigas says, "You and I are both of the Black Flame. You and I are alike, but I have a better understanding of our power than you do." And I'm really interested here because the Black Flame, because he did mention that there was something valuable about Spanner a few episodes ago, but he was not able to like completely put his finger on it. And this is like opening doors for like something interesting to happen. Like we might actually get a final form for this guy because he still doesn't have a final form yet. Neither does Majade. At least Majade has a form change. I like respect that she actually has a form change. Valvared, like he just equips stuff to his body. They are technically forms. They're just so unpronounced compared to Majade's and Gotchard's transformations that you kind of wonder. It's like, is it really a form change or is it just attachments like Kamen Rider, Forze, where like, oh, you can equip up to 4 items at any given time, but you're still in your base states. So, but yeah, the potential of this Black Flame thing, it like at least it gives us a hook to watch the show further. Though I wish we wish there was a 4-parter so we could like introduce it just a little bit more, just a little bit, you know. But as far as Majade, it's like I hope she at least gets a final form. I don't know how at this point, but she's the second writer. She deserves better than Sakura did in Revise, where yes, Sakura did get a final form. I appreciate that. But she got it in literally the last episode, if you don't count the 4-episode filler after them defeating Master Gift. But yeah. So he just summons 5 chemis all at once. Like he even creates portals and just yoink and just fuses them together. And like, where did these hands come from? I'm not saying I'm against it. I like this concept. Just where did they come from? Why didn't you use this sooner? But yeah, I like this idea. And like, this is not just a 5-part amalgam, but it is a 5-part amalgam of the same category, which means you could have up to 20 of these guys if you really wanted to, but you don't. And I do have one additional tiny complaint about this, and it has more to do with Odin specifically than anything else, is the other 4 chemis, Poseidon, Griffin, Fenrir, and what was the last one? And Centaur. Like, these 4 chemis are tied to 4 out of the 5 planetary amalgams. Not amalgams, chemis, which we have seen in a previous episode where we go to Renge's home village. The issue with that is that Odin is not tied to Mars. He is tied to the meteor thing. Mars is tied to Phoenix, which we don't see here. Did we ever collect Phoenix? When did we get Phoenix? Is Phoenix one of the 2 missing chemis? I lost track at this point. I think there might have been a Televikun special that I might have missed out on. Who knows? I don't, but That's where we are. Like, if this was Phoenix, I would have liked it a lot more, because then you would have better tie into the 5 planetary chemis that we've seen in the other episode. Or hey, remember when we were complaining about Sabimaru not having a focus episode right after Renge, and like we had that whole Shakespeare thing? What if he did have a focus episode, and he also had to deal with 5 chemis, more specifically Griffin, Phoenix, Poseidon, Centaur, and Griffin? Like, what if he had the 5 chemis that tied to Renge's 5 chemis? Gochanko, that would have been perfect. But no, it's like, no. I mean, maybe in a future episode, like, they're just going to reuse them because, hey, we're going to capture these 5 chemis at the end of this episode anyways. But oh yeah, and Rene's upset because Hotaru disappeared and turned into an egg, and Renge has to snap her out of it. Good job, Renge. This is why you're the GOAT. And as for what this egg is, it's the mysterious 101st chemi we thought was a total myth. It has no category or level. Gee, remember when a certain someone said that the final chemi should be a level 0 chemi of no category? Remember when someone mentioned that? Yeah, well, it's not level 0, but at least it is without proper 1 to 10 ranking, and it has no unique category. And it's not based on the Philosopher's Stone. It's based on the Philosopher's Egg. Based on the Philosopher's Egg, which, for those of you who don't know, is an alchemy tool. It's not even an alchemy artifact. Philosopher's Stone is an artifact that is supposed to be able to create transmutations without being bound to the laws of conservation of mass or the conservation of energy. However, the Philosopher's Egg is just a tool used for subliming solids into gases. That's it. Sublimation. That's all it's good for. That's all it's good for. That's all it's good for. But hey, at least it has philosopher in its name. But even the egg itself has really nothing to do with the actual alchemy tool that it's named after. So that's kind of weird. So inside the giant white egg, we have what is basically a digi-egg. It's got this digital blue shell with orange arrows around it, which I cannot stress enough how much it looks like a digi-egg. And of course, he's talking to the egg. I think Otar lost his mind because he's talking to an egg. And of course, the egg is like, I might be a chemi. I don't know, but I don't want to be born. Basically, he's Freddie Mercury from Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't want to die, but sometimes wish I'd never been born at all. And it's like, but you should be born, because even though there's danger in living, there is also joy in living. And I'm going to prove it by using Omaris. And of course, he makes Omarize, and of course, the egg likes, like, maybe there is use in being born. And of course, they have this whole rainbow sequence, and he's born. It's like, my gotcha is to be able to create a world where humans and chemis can coexist. And of course, the egg hatches. We have this beautiful scene where the rain goes away, and there's rainbows everywhere. And of course, the egg hatches into Nijigon, the final chemi. Sort of. Kinda. Depends on how you look at it. Are you going to do it the Bulbasaur way? Are you going to do it the Rhydon way? Are you going to do it the Mew way? Or are you going to do this the Arceus way? But no matter which way you cut it, it still looks like a Digimon. And yes, Nijigon turns into an attachment, and he has not 1 but 2 cards for some reason. That part just did not make sense, but it's whatever. But at least we finally understand why the Gotchard driver is so important. It's not because, he could use 2 cards at once. It's because he has the actual egg inside the driver. Still don't see what makes it more special, because the way they explained it before, other drivers have been able to use 2 cards as well. Don't see what's so special about it except for the fact that the egg is in there. And they don't really specify why the egg makes it more special, because it's like, oh, he's a pathetic, lame excuse for an alchemist, but somehow he's the greatest alchemist because of the egg. And another thing that's really but here's where like one of my biggest subtractions goes to this episode. They don't explain why the egg is in there. Like, I was thinking, first of all, they didn't make it clear whether it was inside the driver or inside Hotaro. Second, I was under the impression that maybe they should tie in Hotaro's father into the story somehow, because they keep bringing him up in these last 2 episodes. So it just feels like an absolute red herring for him to just not be in any way involved with that process. But we get the new attachment. He turns into his new form. It looks decent. It doesn't look terrible, but it's not the most impressive looking final form I've seen. I've seen better ones. I appreciate how like his face is all pointy, but I feel like his shoulders are a little too wide. One thing I do appreciate is that whole xylophone effect where whenever he walks or whenever he runs, his footsteps sound like a giant piano, like one of those giant pianos from the movie Big, like dun 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 dun. I like that. I like that aesthetic. It's gonna become annoying at some point, but not yet. But I like that aesthetic because it low-key does remind me of that episode of Zatch Bell where you had that one Mamoto that used music-themed magic. And of course, like they had that one spell where it was something like Dore Mi Haru! I forgot like the entire spell, but it had Dore Mi in the name. And of course, it's also the episode where Zatch unlocks his 4th spell, Baozu Kariga. But the one downside to this, as much as I like the aesthetic, and as much as I like the background music, we don't really get to see it really shine, because all he does is just jump away from a few attacks and then uses Rider Kick, and that's it. And the Rider Kick does form an arch. Yeah, I get it. Larke na Sael, but just because the French word for rainbow is the word arc, it's the word arc, doesn't mean you should form a literal arc when you, or at least if you're gonna do it, at least pull off a Kamen Rider build where it's like, where he's like tracing the trajectory of the arch, kind of like how build has that parabola where it's like, but let's be honest, if he did do that, I would just be complaining that he's ripping off Kamen Rider build, like I've been complaining about Gotchard ripping off other seasons. So that's a no-win situation. So I'm going to let this slide. But I wish they would show more of this form doing stuff besides just Rider kicking. And with that said, they revive the chemis that were previously unalived by Gigist. And of course, there's this beautiful reunion between Hopper 1 and Hotaro. And Hopper 1's got the little flower. That's so cute. And while everyone's celebrating, the 2 teachers like, yeah, Hotaro might be the one to break the laws of alchemy. I'm like, well, gee, hasn't he done that already? I mean, Valva Red kind of broke those laws too by having 2 6s as his base form. So what specific laws are we breaking here? Because we're not being very consistent with what the laws actually are. But with that said, that's where the episode ends. And what we know of the next episode is that despite having our 101st Chemi, we only have 99 of them. There's 2 chemis still missing, and they're out there somewhere over the rainbow, and something's gotta happen once they find it. I mean, I will say this: does feel kind of weird that they didn't find all 100 chemis before hatching Nijigon, but let's see how this plays out. This episode, 9 out of 10. It's not as good as episode 36, and I do hate how they closed the door on some potential subplots that could have been done, namely Hotaro's dad. Maybe he will show up in the last 10 episodes or get some kind of explanation. But at least we still have the question of what's the deal with the black flame thing that Gigas mentioned about Spanner. As it is right now, that's probably the most interesting part of the story at this moment. I want to follow up on it. I just hope that they don't just let it go like the previous arc did with the whole Kamen Rider Wind thing. It just feels kind of weird. Yeah, I don't know where the plot is going from here. Gigas is still around. There's still 2 more chemis. Something important has to happen once we get all 101 chemis. So it just feels weird that we finally got Nijigon and we still haven't collected all 101 of them. So let's see how this plays out in the next episode. But on that, my only real complaint is I wish that Rainbow Gotchard just got a little more action. That's pretty much it. And if I'm nitpicking, just switch those 2 chemis from the Fantastic Amalgam. And if I'm going to nitpick further, it should have been Phoenix instead of Odin, but I'm going to let that one slide. What do you guys think? Did you like this episode? Did you hate it? Is this the end of an arc? Or is there going to be, or is this just a midterm to the current arc? What do you think is going to happen next? There's like at least 12, there's probably 12-ish more episodes left. Let us know in the comments what you guys thought. We only have 2 comments. No Philosopher's Stone, but at least it's Philosopher's something. You aren't completely wrong, but I understand your frustration. Yeah, honestly, I'm not super frustrated, but it does feel like wasted potential because, again, they described it like it's a Philosopher's Stone. It has no number, there's no category, and there's so much potential it could have, especially because it is an egg. It's like an egg could hatch into anything. You know, it's like what Peter Griffin said. A boat's a boat, but a mystery box, it could have anything. It could even have a boat. You always wanted one of those. Isn't that right, Lois? So yeah. At least it was a Philosopher's something. Gotta take the W's with the L's. What's even weirder is that there are still 2 chemis left, so what would there even be after we find them? Feels like Game of Thrones Season 8 by fighting Cersei after the Night King. Okay, first of all, as much as I complained about Kamen Rider Gotchard, and believe me, I had a lot of things to complain about Kamen Rider Gotchard, it's still nowhere near as bad as Game of Thrones Season 8. But I will say you're kind of right in one small aspect. As I said, yeah, they should have found all the chemis before hatching Nijigon instead. So, like, what is left for there to happen? Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. I just don't think it's as bad as God Season 8. Because, yeah, God Season... Honestly, I'd have to say God Season 8 was still a lot worse, because Night King! Cersei! Night King! Cersei! Night King! Cersei! Dan and Dave. But yeah, no, like they should have done the whole Cersei thing first and then the Night King. Much the same here. They should have collected all 100 chemis and then got Nijigon. But who knows? Maybe this will tie into Hotaro's father. Maybe it'll tie into the whole Black Flame thing that Spanner's got going on. Who knows? Again, there's a dozen episodes left. So here's hoping. Well, that's it for the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay hydrated. Update emergency kits, hug your loved ones. If you enjoy watching, please be sure to comment, like, and subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Ding the bell icon to stay notified for our latest videos. Please share videos because it helps us out with the algorithms. Mondays, we got Ultraman Rube. Wednesdays, Kamen Rider Gotchard. AO. Thursdays, Bakage Sentai Boom Boom Drew. Tomorrow, new episode. And on Sunday starting next week, not this week, next week, we're doing Kamen Rider 5s. Just in time because because the 20th anniversary film did come out recently. Still waiting on that Blu-ray. I'm looking at you, Toku Collectibles. I'm looking at you guys. And yeah, and just like before, there's this interesting pattern where every season we review, there's always one actor who shows up in the next season we discuss. So like from Amazon to Bill, we had Banjo. From Build to Kiva, we had Kohei Takeda, and then finally, like from Kiva to Fies, we have Mari / Mio. I hate Mio, but Mari, I don't hate her as much. But I might change my mind upon rewatching Fies, so who knows? I was low-key expecting Hibiki because of the whole Jiro thing, Jiro being Zanki, but hey, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe someone else from Fies will show up in a different season that we haven't done yet. So who knows? Just next Sunday, open your eyes for the first Kamen Rider 5s. And check out our sister channel, The Buttery Show, where we do more reviews, video game news. We just finished Shrek month. I have something cooking for our next batch of movies. It's something that you would not expect. The only hint I'm going to give is that they're not a series. It's not a series. Like the last few months we did batches. They were series. We did Doctor Who series. We did the Crow series. We did Naked Gun series, and just recently we did the Shrek series. This is not our next one. It's not going to be a series. So don't get any like ideas, but I actually do have an interesting theme in mind. So stay tuned for that. And with that said, guys, if you want to follow my personal content, you can find me on Instagram at Boken_Kabuto and on Twitch at twitch.tv/BokenKabuto. And I hope all you guys have a wonderful start to your summer, which is in 2 weeks. I don't know why I'm saying it now, but some people consider June 1st to be summer. So, you know. And with that said, guys, keep it cool or warm, depending on which hemisphere you're in. And I'll see you guys in person in in Burbank at Robo Toy Fest. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye.